Woo-wee. Hello, my other artists out there. Yes, yes, you are my favorite, those that show up and play and talk here with me. I hope you're doing well. This is wintertime here, and we are all a little snuggled in, and this is the best time to pull out our art supplies and to take advantage of this time and create. I'm always a proponent of creating all year long anyway, but this is probably the best time right now because of not being able to get out. So we create so much. I am going to share with you today a project that I worked on last week let me stop and just introduce myself to those that are maybe new here and have not heard me before and is showing up today. My name is Kathy Freeman. My website is kathyfreemanart.com. I am a mixed media artist. I love to use all types of mediums when I'm creating art. It just really depends on what I'm feeling like that day. And I like to incorporate a lot of different things just to experiment. Hence, mixed media is the title. So, what we're working on, what I'm sharing with you today, is this little project that I showed last week. I created this I've got an art group, an art club that I call my Art Sisters. And these ladies get together, not necessarily physically, it's all online. And I provide the classes and that, and we'll come together like right after I get through with this, a little bit later around lunchtime. We're going to get together on Zoom and we chat and get to know one another and share some of our ideas and that. So it's a great way to connect with other artists. And I love, love, love doing it. I have within that group something called Heart Journeys. And what that basically is I like to create for myself a journal of sorts. I'm not a huge writer, like I write all the time, but I do love to create art and then put down thoughts and impressions that have struck me, that have impressed me. And so that's why I call it Heart Journeys, because they're things that touch my heart and that I want to put into my book. I don't think I have my book right here close enough. I know it's in this room, but I didn't prepare to share it with you. Anyway, this is the project for this past week. I always upload it and share it with them, what I'm doing on Sunday. And those that are interested in maybe a spiritual thought or something uplifting can go to that section. I have a place where we all meet called our little art village, and they can go into there, connect into that little camper called Heart. My mind is getting a little blank there, but anyway, into Heart Journeys, and be able to see what I've got going on. So let me talk to you right now about how this came to be. A lot of times, we are so close to a situation and that it's hard to see anything else but that situation. And so we've been told to try to zoom out a little bit, right? Try to zoom out so that we can get a better perspective of it, right? All right. Well, a lot of times we are zoomed out on something, and with our artwork. And if we will zoom in, we can find some really interesting perspective, a different view of it. Now, this is the image that I had that I was working with, that I actually handed out to everyone on my email list. And of course, my printer, I went out and bought some new ink because you can tell the ink just told me that I am through. And so, but this was my template, and I shared this template with everyone on my email list. If you're not on my email list, go to my website, kathyfreemanart.com. And right there, the first thing on that first page is how to get on my email list. Get on that email list because I'm always sending out, either free videos for you to do for projects or templates that you can color yourself or do things with. This went out, and as I gave it to them a week or so ago, and it's a beautiful coloring page, something that it's a stained glass of a rose, and just a beautiful coloring page. If you're sitting there and you're just by the fire and wanting to create something, it's a really beautiful page to do that with. But I thought, wouldn't it be neat to zoom in on it and to find a space in it that you could create and do something a little different. And so you could do this by using your phone and taking a picture of the image. How do you do that? You go right over the top of it so that it's a level, and then shoot a picture. It's that simple. You don't really want it angled because it gives you kind of, well, it might make a really neat art piece to do that. That's all this is for, is just to create something. But I usually go straight over, shoot it so that it's parallel with the image itself. Then as you're looking at it, you can take that picture when it's in your gallery and start to enlarge it and move it around and find little sections in that you can look at the lines and the way things are flowing and go, that might be a really neat composition. And so that's how you can create your own composition out of something else that you've seen that's maybe inspiring to you. There are so many areas on this particular image that you could zoom in on and create something that would be just beautiful. And that's what I did with this. It's the inner center part of the rose flower. And I did some my own interpretations of it as I went along. So what I have here for you, oh, and let me show you what I did for the gals is my members, is I always create for them a template, whether they like to use a template or not. I always create one most of the time, unless there's a very rare moment that I don't, because I'm usually creating it for myself. So I share it with them. And with that template, I put that in my heart journeys, and they were able to use that to create this past week. Hello, I've got someone joining me. Go ahead and put your name, if you'd like, in the comments and let me know where you're from. It's always fun to see where we're connecting with. Now, what I'm going to share with you right now is the little quick video. Excuse me. I am coming off of a cold, and it's not one that's bad enough right now to be in bed, and you're sitting there, you're kind of not at that 100% wellness. So excuse me. I'm going to share with you a time-lapse video, and this is the same one that I gave to my art club members. I gave this to them, and it's for them to follow along, because these particular projects themselves, I just want them to take the journey with me. It's not a formal class where I'm sitting down and teaching them this step, this step, this step. I do give to them the supply list, etc. But let me share with you right now the time lapse, and then you can see how I went about doing that. Let's see if I can enlarge this. That would be better. All right. And then you can see that. Hello, welcome for joining me. I'm glad you're here. Go ahead and put your name in. I'd love to know who's with me today. All right. This is, since you just got on here, I'm sharing with you a time lapse of how I created this project last week for my art club members. And it goes a little bit fast. It's about 8 minutes. It goes a little bit fast. But it does give the steps and the ideas, and I'll walk you through it. I'll talk you through it as we go. And I'm happy to stop if there's a question you have. As I go through here, I tell the members to go ahead and create the design. And I just shared earlier here in this little group here, as I'm talking this live, how I did that. So as this comes up later, you can go back and listen to the beginnings, and I'll tell you exactly how I came about getting this different perspective from the original that I had. As I looked at it, I just found the area that was most interesting to me and then traced it out. I always use graphite paper when I'm transferring my pattern onto, say, watercolor paper or something. And that way, it's easier for me to use, just good old copy paper to make my patterns. And then I come back and put it on something else. Because usually if you're trying to erase something, it doesn't work so well on your other paper. It lifts up that tooth. Now, this, because it's supposed to simulate a stained glass, I came back with a large, the regular tip of our Sharpie markers and went ahead and went back over the image that was traced on. So I'm using watercolor paper here because I know I'm going to watercolor. And it's in one of my favorite sizes. Hi, Helen. Thank you. AM 17 years. Anyway, sorry, I didn't understand your comment, but it's good to have you here. Anyway, as I go back in and I found that there's some areas I want to put some of the, details. So I'm using a fine tip marker here just to give that variation. And it's time now to add the watercolor. And the best suggestion I have for this for you is to be loose with it. You're going to do this in layers. And so put down the first layer, but know that you're going to continue to add on top. So I started out light in some areas and then increased it with a darker shade of that yellow and brought in a red. I wanted to create kind of that warm peachy color, which is a little challenging to do with watercolors. And so I'm actually going to go back in with acrylics and redo this, make this again on a piece of canvas, and I can bring in some other colors that are in my mind. But as you can see, I brought in over that yellow, I brought a little bit of an orange and some of that red. As it does mix together, it does create some beautiful shades on its own. And so you just kind of, the wonderful thing about watercolor is you let it just create its own little journey. That's what it wants to do, how it wants to flow. Keep your colors, give variation. Let it have a variation of the dark versus the light. In other words, what that means, what I'm saying is, like right here, I'm coming in really strong. This is wet on dry, and it gives you more of an intense color. Whereas if you wet down the paper, your watercolor paper at first, then it, it tends to be a little bit lighter and it flows easier. But having that variation is pleasing to the eye, and it makes your eye want to flow all around that whole composition. So you start looking at different things and noticing different things. I'm just hitting the tips here with the red, letting it, because this is wet, it's blending in and it's mixing well with the yellow. I come back in with some more yellow because, as you start layering, it can cover up some of that color, and I don't want it to be covered up. So I come back in, and that's the beauty about watercolor is take a minute and let it dry. In these little time lapses, I didn't want to sit here and bore anybody with the drying time. But if you're trying to actually create a layer on top of a layer that has different colors, that's not blended together per se, dry the paint underneath. And then you can put that other color on top, and you get more of a see-through where you see one color and then see the underneath color. Otherwise, when you're putting wet on wet, then they start to blend and create, a different color. So for contrast, I brought in a little bit of a purple. I've been using the reds and the yellows and the oranges all throughout the whole thing so far, but I brought in just a little bit of purple and then covered back over that with red so that it gave a shadow or a shading to it. Notice how I came back in there in that center part to see if my little mouse will move here. Yeah, right in here. I brought in that dark red. And here too, because I'm wanting to give the illusion of it going down. I don't want it to be just flat across. I want you to get some kind of a movement where this petal comes up and out. And that's what that does, is you create that. For you that are new to art, when you shade things and highlight them, then it creates that movement. It helps it to move and to go back and forth. Just continuing, I'm just using those same three colors. I'm not changing a whole lot. And so when you're using that type of a color scheme, especially when they're right next to each other, that is an analogous color scheme. The colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel is an analogous. They're all neighbors to each other. Excuse me. And it gives analogous color scheme. Usually when I think of analogous, I'm always thinking about the cooler colors, like your blues and that, and you're moving those in. But you can create it with the warmer colors, which are your yellows, reds, and oranges, and have quite a vibrant image going on here. All right. And we're just getting down now to where we're filling in a little bit more shadowing with the layers and coming back in. And this project, the reason I sped it up for my art club is number one, like I said in the beginning, this is not actually a class that I'm sitting here teaching them every single step. This particular section of the group is follow along if you're interested in doing this. I'm going to show you what I'm doing for my own book type of thing. And so it's not a formal class of step by step by step, but you do get a good idea of how to do this. Also, the other factor, reason for speeding this up is when I'm doing my own journal, it is for myself, and it's a time of relaxing and enjoying art. And when you're trying to present it to a class and that, you're always thinking about, okay, what do they need to know next? What do they need to know next? And so I really wanted to be able to enjoy for myself just, all of that creative energy and that wonderful time. And so the project I just messed with it and played with it for probably about 2 hours. I know it was a good hour and a half. And so that was a little bit long for anybody else. But now comes the time to unveil, which is always my favorite. I usually tape it down because I love, love, love that last little part right there where you can see, let me see if I can go back to it right here, where you can see those crisp edges, the sharp edges, the framing around the art piece. And it just automatically, when you tape it off, when you put a little border around it, number one, when you're doing watercolor, it is best to tape it down because you're adding water to the paper and the paper will expand. It moves a little bit. And so by taping it down, you're securing it to something so that as it dries, it can go back and it resumes its form. That is typically the way that you work with watercolor. But I just love it on all of my projects to tape it down because of that framing that it does and how it creates that wonderful edge it makes for it. So now what I have is I have a terrific card that I can pass along and give out to a friend or pass off to them. So let me go ahead and take that down. There we go. So today's little live was basically to walk you through this. And primarily what I wanted to share with you is what I shared in the very beginning. So if you're just coming on, hi, Marianne. Thank you. I just finished our little presentation. As you go back and rewatch this, you will see this is a project that I did for my art sisters, and I put it in the bonus section called Heart Journeys because it's part of a project, something I do for myself, but I always like to share it with them in case they're interested in it, and I give them a template. The purpose for this particular meeting, though, is I really want to encourage individuals to take images, and I already explained, while this is how my printer just gave me a really clear understanding that it needs some new ink in there. But how you can take an image that you have, you should have received this in an email because I sent this out to everyone, and how you can take that image and by zooming in, take a picture of it with your camera. Just recap here. Take a picture of it with your camera on your phone, and then you can take that and zoom in on that image and come up with your own pattern. So if you'll watch the replay, you can go back in and see how I created this template. Sorry about that. how I created this template for the members and gave them something. And also, this particular video right here shares with you and shows you, teaches you how you can change the perspective on anything that you're looking at. So if you have something that you've created and maybe you loved it, but you want to get a different perspective of it, you can go back in and take a picture of it, zoom in on different parts, look at, different areas of it, things that are interesting to you, and start creating that pattern. All right, I'm going to get ready. I've got to get on with my art sisters here in the next little bit. We've got our Zoom meeting. Is there any questions or anything that I can answer for anybody? Remember to go to my website and keep up with, get on my email list if you're not already on there. It's KathyFreemanArt.com. And I will see you again next Tuesday and share with you again another project. All right. Have a great day.